you most beautiful and most amazing top 10ers of beauty. Now I have a very sad but historically interesting top 10 for you today. We have the top 10 cruelest leaders in history. So yeah, this is gonna get pretty dark, but it's important that we learn from history so we're not totally doomed to repeat it. Okay, let's do this. In at number 10, we have Osama bin Laden. I mean, you know a list is gonna be kind of brutal when Osama is only at number 10. I'm just saying. So if there's a light at the end of the Osama bin Laden tunnel, is that he was stopped before he had the chance to truly actualize his plans. That said, those plans that he did enact were abominations, and he did manage to orchestrate the biggest terror attack on American soil, lighting the path for other extremist organizations such as ISIS. So Osama founded Al-Qaeda in 1988. Al-Qaeda is a radical Islamic group who have sought terror across the globe. To put it simply, Al-Qaeda wants to create a Muslim caliphate free of foreign influence and believes that Jews and Christians are plotting together to destroy Islam. In order to stop this, Al-Qaeda wanted to attack the West and other ethnicities that disagree with their ideology. Masterminded by Osama, they were behind the 1998 US Embassy attacks, the 2001 9/11 attacks, and the 2002 Bali bombings. Now the death toll as a result of Osama's control and Al-Qaeda is actually quite small, ultimately calculating to around 10,000 people. However, attacks have been largely targeted at civilians, which is undoubtedly cruel. And at number 9, we have Kim Il-sung. So Kim Il-sung was the supreme leader of North Korea from 1948 until his death in 1994, during which time he managed to kill between 1.6 and 3 million people. Now due to the number of missing people, it's hard to give an exact number. He approved the invasion of South Korea in 1950, and he purposefully starved his people. He also set up concentration camps across the country and arrested his uncle and his stepmother. As I said, thousands of people simply went missing during his rule, and without access to North Korea even today, it's hard to know exactly what went on. So ramping up the cruelty by insane amounts next, we have Attila the Hun at number 8. So Attila the Hun was a barbaric and ruthless leader and presided over the Hunnic Empire between 434 to 543 AD. Now the Huns were Eurasian nomads, I guess a little bit like the wildlings from Game of Thrones. Attila was the most feared enemy of both the East and Western Roman empires. He invaded the Balkans, he devastated many Italian provinces, and generally went about being both rampant and bloodthirsty. Legend has it that he would tear his enemies limb from limb and then drink their blood. It's also thought that he killed his brother in order to assume power. Now Attila wanted to marry Saint Ursula, but when she refused, he killed her and 11,000 of her followers. It's thought that during his time he killed around 2 million people as he pillaged, invaded, and raped and murdered his way across Europe, which actually was a whole load of people back in the 400s. The population back then was thought to have been below 300 million. In at number 7, we have Pol Pot. So Pol Pot was the leader of the Khmer Rouge Communist Party in Cambodia between the years of 1963 to 1997. Now he ruled the entire country as well for 4 years. At this time, the Cambodian population was around 8 million, and Pol Pot managed to murder around 25% of the entire population. Now reports suggest that around 2 million people lost their lives as a result of his orders. As part of the communist regime, Pol demanded urban dwellers live in the countryside and unsuccessfully tried a policy of agricultural reform, basically demanding that everyone be able to maintain total self-sufficiency. Now this meant that they were denied medicines to curable illnesses like malaria. During his reign, many people simply starved to death. Now you guys may have heard of the Cambodian killing fields. For those that are unaware of the atrocities, Pol Pot and his party organised mass genocide of almost 1.5 million people. So following the downfall of his regime in 1979, 20,000 mass graves were discovered with thousands of bodies in every single one of them. Now many of these people were from religions banned by the Khmer Rouge regime, such as ethnic Chinese, Vietnamese people, Muslim Cham, and 20 other minorities. Also murdered were those that threatened the regime's ideology. In at number 6, we have Leopold II. So Leopold II was the King of Belgium between 1865 and 1809, and he managed to cause a ridiculous amount of devastation during that time, although his destruction was by and large far from home. So hiring an explorer, Leopold paid to establish a colony in what was then known as the Congo Free State. He managed to convince the colonial nations of Europe that he was actually doing work to help improve the lives of people living in the Congo. Subsequently, he didn't have to pay trade tax and was left alone for many years to pillage ivory and rubber from the locals. Not only did King Leopold force many people of the Congo Free State into slave labor, he tortured and killed those who resisted. Now there are wildly varying reports of the death toll at the time, but many say it's between 2 to 15 million people. In at number 5 we have Ivan IV. So Ivan IV earned himself the nickname Ivan the Terrible and was known as a vicious murderer. Ivan was the Grand Duke of Muscovy from 1533 to 1547, and he was the first Tsar of Russia. Now during his reign he invaded Crimea, Turkey, East Europe, Siberia, and was even known to fry his enemies in large frying pans and would often enjoy impaling people. So it was reported that he would gather around 1,000 peasants a day and torture them as his son watched on. He then beat his son's wife so badly that she had a miscarriage, and then he killed the very same son, heir to his title, in a fit of rage. Now it's unknown exactly how many people Ivan IV killed, but it's thought to be close to 1 million, although he only admits to killing over 3,000, so good on him for admitting those. Also, the extent of his depravity was crazy. He used to throw animals out of the window just to watch them die. In at number 4 we have Genghis Khan. Now Genghis Khan was the founder of the powerful Mongol Empire, and by the end of his rule he had almost conquered most of Central Asia. The Mongol Empire began as a result of Khan's power play in 1206, after which he sent invaders in every direction. So under his rule, Iran was practically destroyed, as was Kiev and Khuzestan. His people killed without mercy, and it is reported that between 10 to 15 million people lost their lives as a result of his rule. Again, back then that was a huge proportion of the world's population. Getting really nasty from here on out, in at number 3 we have Joseph Stalin. So Stalin was a Bolshevik revolutionary who helped overthrow the Russian government in the 1917 revolution. Stalin manipulated his way to power after the death of communist revolutionary Lenin and named himself Premier of the Soviet Union in 1941. So Stalin was a brutal man who purposefully allowed Ukrainians to starve as a cheaper way to orchestrate mass extermination. Stalin was also a jealous and paranoid man, which made him quite the murderous megalomaniac. Now he created Soviet-enforced labor camps called gulags, which saw the death of millions. It's difficult to calculate the exact number of deaths as a result of Stalin's fierce rule, but historians picture it at around 20 million, although some say the numbers could be as high as 40 million deaths. In at number 2 we have Adolf Hitler. So pretty much all of us know the story of Adolf Hitler. Hitler gradually manipulated his way to power from the mid-1920s, becoming the Chancellor of Germany in 1933 and the first and only Führer in 1934. Now his 11-year reign as leader of Germany was relatively short compared to a few on the list, but his devastation was widespread. Hitler believed in creating an Aryan race of pure-breed Germans, which sparked his social and ethnic cleansing programs. Hitler hated the Jews, seeing them to be money grabbers. He set up the first Jewish concentration camps in 1942, where initially many were sent into forced labor, but ended up being gassed and killed in what was known as the final solution. A reported 6 million Jewish people were killed in the Holocaust, but they weren't the only ones murdered at the hands of Hitler and the Nazi Party. That's right, Hitler also killed many other people during his rise to the top, including friends, foes, homosexuals, those he considered to be un-German, many people with disabilities, and more. Ultimately, 11 million people lost their lives under his regime, with some attributing 30 million deaths to Hitler following the war that he sparked. Does it get any worse than Hitler? Well, evil is evil and cruel is cruel, but devastation can vary. Our number 1 spot, we have a man responsible for a number of deaths, almost totaling everyone else on this list combined. We have Mao Zedong. So Mao Zedong was the founding father of the People's Republic of China, which was achieved in 1949 after a brutal civil war during which the Communist Party overthrew the government. The civil war alone killed between 2 to 3 million people, and Mao was heavily involved in the communist fighting. Mao was also working with another cruel leader earlier up on this list, Joseph Stalin. So the crux of Mao's cruelty came as he defiantly pushed the Great Leap Forward policy, which aimed to change China from an agrarian society, so basically a country country that's economy is based on farming and the land to a society of that of a socialist open market which focused on industry. Unfortunately, this radical shift led to a food shortage, sparking the Great Chinese Famine. Now, during this famine, between 18 and 30 million Chinese people starved to death. Now, it is documented that Mao knew that this was happening as the rice yield was not big enough to sustain the population. He's reported to have said that it was better for half the population to die so the other could thrive. Mao regularly killed counter-revolutionaries and landlords, with many others dying in enforced labour camps. Ultimately, his rule saw the collective untimely deaths of up to 45 million people. Now, this was ultimately due to the famine and corrupt practices he used to obtain and maintain his power. So that was the top 10 cruelest leaders, and yeah, it is really sad, but it's very important to know what went on in the world to be able to recognize the cruelty signs in others who could have the same devastating effects. I'm Rebecca Felgate, this has been Most Amazing Top 10. If you found this video interesting, give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Should we make more history videos? I, for one, really enjoy researching it and delivering it to you guys. Also guys, do make sure you're subscribed to this fabulous channel for more top 10 videos, and I will see you next time.